Greetings everyone, my name is AudunVokter, and in this video we're going to look on how to fight properly as the newly and improved Daspletosaurus. Now before we talk all about the fighting stuff, can I just say, I absolutely love the new design. I love the last design of course, don't get me wrong on that, but this new design looks more realistic in my opinion. And I also love the new AI, love anything that will bring the map more to life. Anyways, on to the fighting. The Daspletosaurus was already a solid mid-tier dino. In fact, in my opinion, it could even have competed in the ranks of Apex. Its damage output can surpass that of the Spinos, with the exception of the Stomp. And while the Dasp aren't the fastest creature, it is still rather fast. And despite its size, it can take a few hits. At least among the mid-tiers, it is one of the better brawlers. If only it wasn't held back due to its HP. This will become a problem later, but for now, let's talk Arsenal. In the first nameless slot there is no new ability, just an exclusive slot for the normal standard bite. For head abilities we have 4 options. The first ability, a piercing bite, which deals high damage and ignores armor and weight of the target. The second ability is bone snap, that no longer deals bone break. I mean, well it does, but not in the same way that we used to. I can't be asked to go into details with this, but basically, you hit enemy gets fracture damage. The more they move, the worse the fracture damage becomes. When the fracture damage reaches a certain point, then your enemy will receive the normal bone break status effect. The third ability, Heavy Bite, is, well, a heavy bite. The fourth ability is Shatter. This ability is a consecutive rapid bite that deals increased fracture damage on every hit. Unfortunately, your target will never reach full bone break with this ability. It can maybe slow them down a little, but not full bone break. For sense abilities we have 4 options. The first one, a blunt teeth. It increases your fracture damage and bone snap uses less stamina. It's a good combination if you only use those 2 abilities. Do I recommend it? Well, let me first cover the rest of the arsenal before I tell you that. The second ability is Carnage. Basically when you're close to a corpse you will gain a boost in attack. The third ability is Feral Instinct. Meow. You will receive a 20% increase in piercing damage, a perfect combination with Piercing Bite. The fourth ability is Tyrant Ally. You will have an increase in armor, and when you are in group with another Tyrannosaurus, the ability can be stacked twice as long as you are within 50 meters. For height, we have 2 options. The first one are Dense Scales. It will grant you several buffs against larger foes. However, in turn it will make you weaker against smaller opponents. The second options are Thin Scoots, that basically does the same as Dense Scales, just the opposite. It will grant you several buffs against smaller enemies, but then make you weak against larger foes. For leg abilities we have 3 options. The first one are Long Distance Runners, that just decreases your stamina drain. The third ability is Skydiver, that reduces the amount of fall damage. The third option are Strong Legs, that increases knockback resistance and fracture healing. Fracture healing. For tail ability we have, well, Tail Attack. The good news is that the knockback finally works on many of the creatures. For call abilities we have 3 options. The first one are Rampage. For 30 seconds you will have an increased damage output. However, the only drawback is that it will only happen if you are low on health. So kind of a double-edged sword. The second voice call are Shattering Cry. Basically you will decrease the fracture healing to any creature within a certain radius. And the third ability is the OG good old Tyrant Roar, that can only be used in group. When it comes to exactly what you should equip those abilities, well, it's definitely difficult to say. First of all, it's the arsenal for larger opponents and then the arsenal for smaller opponents. After which it kinda depends on what you're planning to fight. For example, there are some of your abilities that are better suited towards a specific creature, or there are abilities that are better suited if you are in a group. I won't really dive too deep into group plays, I'll touch upon it a little bit but not too much. We'll figure it out as we go through the battles afterwards. When it comes to what subspecies I would choose to grow, I would actually go for knockback resistance. Remember when I said that Tail Attack actually does knockback now? That will make tail riding a lot more difficult compared to before. Of course, this is against larger creature where knockback is at its worst. Against smaller creature, I would just go for attack damage. When it comes to fighting low tiers, alone they are never truly a threat. And because of your speed, you can give chase if need be. Of course, only do that if you are certain that you can catch up to them. otherwise it's just waste of stamina. As for arsenal, I recommend the following. As your damage output are already rather high, all you really need to be concerned about is just landing your hits. And as for fracture damage, if you get a lucky hit, then that will only slow your opponent down, making it easier to kill them, so you better hope that you can aim good. Also, if they do attack you in a group, just make sure that you move to a location where you hinder their movement. The only thing they really have over you are speed and maneuverability, so once you take that away, they can't really do too much. When it comes to fighting mid-tiers, well, here it is where it becomes a little bit complicated. For a creature that the Daspletosaurus outstat, he can just overpower them in a head-to-head brawl. Take for example Daspletosaurus or other creatures that are noticeably faster than you. Any creature that are noticeable faster than you can just beat them in a head-to-head clash. And if the other party doesn't want to do a head-to-head clash with you, just make sure that you give it chase and that they can't escape. For creatures that are closer to you in terms of stats, like the Allosaurus, the odds becomes 50-50, well, or rather it depends on player skills. There are times when the Daspletosaurus comes on top, and there are times when the Allosaurus comes on top. Battle between creatures of similar stats usually involves tail riding, battle of turn radius, or head-to-head clashing. In the end, it all comes down to who can land and dodge more hits. In other words, learn to dodge and tail ride. In the case with Allosaurus, you can't try and just overpower them, but you can't look down on their damage output either. The Daspletosaurus might have an advantage in damage output, but the Allosaurus has an advantage in HP. And of course this is against mid-tier carnivores. Had this been a mid-tier herbivore like Iguanodon, you would probably have needed a more hit and run strategy, combined with a lot of tail riding. There aren't really too much strategies to form, when there's not too many differences between you and your enemy. No clear advantages to draw from. Takeaway is, the playing field are so equal that it comes down to player skill. When it comes to fighting high tiers and apexes, well, let's just say it has become even more difficult nowadays, especially now that they added knockback on the tail attack. Yes, I know it always said in the description that they did knockback, but let's be honest, it really didn't. And if you try to attack in another direction to avoid the tail, well, it's not like the front side are any better. This is also why I recommend for beginners not to fight apexes, not without a group at least. I mean, if you do have a group, then it's not really too much of a problem to take down an apex. Also, if you fight in a group, this is the abilities I recommend. For the empty slots, you can choose. You'll figure out what you prefer as you play. But if you insist on fighting apexes, at least start off with the creatures that are a bit easier to tail ride. After all, you're not gonna beat them in a head-to-head clash. And hit and run are better suited for bleeders, something that you don't have. Against apexes, I recommend this arsenal. With Piercing Bite, the difference in weight and armor becomes irrelevant. It all falls down to how good you can tail ride. Of course you can't spam Piercing Bite, but at least it levels the playing field. A Daspletosaurus can most definitely take on an apex, but it is a feat that requires skill. So to summarize, against low tiers, you can simply just overpower them. If you are sure you can hit them, you can chase them. Also move to a location that hinders their movement. Against mid tiers, as there are many variations, you can just overpower those who has worse stats. Before it turns into a face-to-face brawling, do what you can to do damage and to dodge your enemy's attacks. And in the case where you fight mid-tiers that has better stats than you probably want to dodge a lot more of their attacks. Against apexes, most definitely tail ride, do not face tag them, you're not that guy. Power through the knockback and do whatever you can to stay behind them. On that note, I'ma leave it right there. Thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you guys later. Goodbye. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it's just fun to stick an army on people.